listening that we did, what like determined Fox. So what did we talk about with that? Do you guys remember?
Like the vocal cords.
Yeah, like the vocal cords. Yeah. What else? Yeah. So that determines more like your voice type, like your bass or baritone or whatever. So it's those two things, right? And it's also that timbre of your voice makes a huge difference, right? Remember we had that discussion about the loudness stuff and what makes somebody dramatic and not dramatic. So when I was doing this talk back, we were talking about all kinds of different things about my colleagues. We're just saying things, I don't know. And they were talking about how tuning's changed.
Oh, what?
Right, tuning.
They were talking about just the muggles or?
Yeah. It's just like, and so when you do these talk, the reason we're taking this class is so that you know this information when you go and talk to the plebs about this, that you can say what's right, right?
The plebs.
Because we're going to school for this, we're getting our master's degree, so we should know this stuff.
Be masters.
Or we should know what we don't know, so that we don't start talking
About it.
and they have no idea, and we're giving them all this wrong information, right? So they were talking about, so you know how tuning has gone up. Like if we do Bach music, we do it at 415. Do y'all know why we do that?
That's just how it's done during standard tuning at that time?
Yeah, and actually mostly because the organ was set tuned at 415. So when they tuned it to the organ, that's like what they tuned it to. And so there are actually different Bach cantatas you can do that actually go up a half step. Because they're written in different places and they use different instruments for them. Yeah.
Cool.
And so you can make clarinets, like because of the length of their tube too, they're designed to play at certain tuning systems.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is like a big old, like early music people love to geek out over this. If it's supposed to be 356 or like 415, you know, because if you do French Baroque opera, it's like 356, which is down a whole step. Sometimes. Kind of depends on who you're
Love
doing.
that.
Okay, so then they were also talking about how, so that means when Verdi was composing, that if he wrote for a lower pitch center, was he writing for a different kind of singer to sing the baritone parts? No, why not? Why are you shaking your head, Tommy?
Because the difference, I'm assuming the difference, Verdi probably wrote for what, like 430 or 4, it wasn't.
Right.
So the difference is so minuscule that like it doesn't really matter, I guess, for, like at that point, it's not 356 where it's a whole step or something like that.
Right.
So the difference is teensy-weensy.
That's true. But it actually, something interesting about it is it actually compounds as you go up higher, remember? So like if you're singing, at 440 is like 430, and then if you add it up, you're almost like a half step down by the time you get to like soprano land.
Right.
So for baritones, it's not as much of a difference as it is for sopranos. So when people like use that tuning idea to talk about men's voices all the time, we sing so low that it doesn't matter quite as much. Make sense?
Yeah.
The bigger thing that they did actually was that they sang for smaller halls, right? So you're not trying to like scream over a huge orchestra to like 4,000 people.
Yeah.
You know, you're just trying to sing to like 500 or something like that. Yeah.
What are the construction of the halls? In the case of Wagner, like construction
Yeah.
of the hall.
Did anyone get a pencil with the X-ray machine?
It's a good pencil. I can be
This is just okay.
The other thing, it looks like you have
Yeah.
it might be easier to check who used
Okay. Awesome. Do any of you have a computer that can project onto the projector?
We could
I
try.
have my iPad.
I don't know if I have the right. Okay, I got two different kind of things to go to the VGA.
Oh, yeah, I'm Yeah, I can do that.
Allie has a computer, Chris.
Use mine.
Okay.
It's working.
It's working? Awesome. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Oh!
That was like perfect timing. Okay, great. Alright, so we're going to talk more about breathing today, yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, everybody brought their book?
Yeah.
Oh, did you bring pencils to color with too?
No, we weren't told to bring you six
can't color
colors.
that fast.
I thought you said bring the nutters.
Coloring book.
Me.
You have to
Yeah,
color
so
it
you
in.
Look at the pictures.
Okay. You can just look at it, but it's the point of the coloring book is that you color it in, right? Okay, cool. So we can do that as homework. All right, so I wanted to show you this video. So this is a horn player playing the horn in an MRI machine.
Wanna do this? Is it gonna give you one?
So we can see what the what our body looks like when we do this. It's not going to make any noise.
And in she goes.
So that's your chest cavity. That's like looking down, right?
It's the heart.
And that's your heart. See how it compresses so that you exhale? And then here's your diaphragm. And this is where your lungs are, right?
Look at that.
Wow.
Good, so now that's the best one. Is your diaphragm exhaling? No, right?
Say that
No.
again.
Watch it again. This is what's doing it.
Internal intercostals.
Well, and your abs, right?
Whoa.
You want to watch again?
Yes. That's,
Okay. I'll put it on Google Drive somewhere so you can see it. We could just play this video on repeat and you'll learn everything you need to know about breathing.
are there more of these videos like with singers?
I don't think so. The MRI machines are really expensive,
Yeah.
especially when you're trying to get like arts funding to do it, right? So, whatever. Okay, cool, huh?
Yes.
So that's what we're learning about. All right, breathing techniques. So we'll review everything when we get through it, okay? Rather than going back and talking about, because that could be like, what are the muscles of exhalation? Do you guys remember? Well, we do it, okay. What are the muscles of exhalation?
External intercostals, and some people say the diaphragm.
Exhalation?
Abdominal muscles.
Some people say the abs.
Rectus abdominis.
Hey, your abdominals and which intercostals?
Internal.
Internal, yep, exactly. Good, what are the exhalation, or inhalation?
External intercostals, maybe the
Diaphragm.
diaphragm.
External intercostal.
Yep, okay, those are the big ones. But you have to know the breakdown of the abs too, and which ones are which ones, right? Okay, yep. Now remember, I give you a picture, you drop in picture, and tell me what it is. Great. All right, so there's 4 different ways of breathing. I'm sure you all have learned or heard about these in your classes or lessons, right? So we get clavicular, thoracic, abdominal, and bounce, which is apacho, which means to lean, right? Yeah, great. Great. So breath support, the dynamic relationship between the muscles of inspiration and expiration that are used to control the pressure in the air supplied to the larynx. That's what breath support is. So if somebody asks you what it is, you will know that it is these bolded terms
According to James.
that you have to know.
So like the,
But that's like that's the best definition, right? Because it includes, so it's a relationship, right?
I mean, not really.
What do you think is the best definition?
I think breath support is something that by its very definition doesn't have a good definition.
I disagree, because we're talking about physiology. So if we're talking about singing, if you're actually like doing the activate and what you're feeling, that's different than what we're talking about.
But we're using a term that is specifically developed as a pedagogical tool for singing, not as a description of physiological phenomena.
Well, and playing clarinet and horn, and they all talk about breath support too.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. But it's a phenomenon that's pedagogical for practical purposes, not as an explanation of physical phenomena.
No, it is because we use it to, we have to use it to control the pressure supplied to the larynx, right?
Right.
Oh.
So it's a physiological thing that we are doing. It's not a phenomena. It's not something that's like amazing that happens. I mean, we've been singing since and making noise since we were
Right, and people were still discussing breath support successfully before we knew what the physical phenomena were.
right, and that they would say that this is the same thing, right? So if you go back and you read Garcia and
But
like
you have to have like a point
they
of
say-
pressure somewhere, you have to have like a point of like tension or pressure somewhere, and like obviously it's in the abdomen around those muscles.
yes, right. So you have to be doing something. Breath support doesn't just happen, right? So that's the relationship. In muscles of inspiration and expiration, so because you have to breathe in and then you have to expire, so you have to breathe out. And then you have to control this pressure that goes to the larynx, right? Okay, so that's just like a baseline definition of breath support. It can mean a million different things, right? So you can talk about how like it feels like you're pushing on a piano, or that you're breathing into your feet, or things like that. I mean, that can all mean something, but this is like the easiest way we can say it, right? It's gotta have those elements in it, right? Okay, so breath control is the act of efficiently regulating airflow through the glottis by means of breath support. I came up with that. but-
Wait, let's get that again.
The act of efficiently regulating airflow through the glottis by means of breath support. So that's,
Yeah.
you're controlling it. Ian thinks it's funny. Okay. Breath support is the fuel and breath control is the motor, right?
Yeah.
Alright, clavicular breathing. Alright, common in most people and beginners, right? So clavicular breathing, can we all do it? Right, everybody loves that. I think there was a lot of that in the Super Bowl. Alright, so inhalation is raising the shoulders and the clavicle, which increases the volume of the lungs, right? We do this?
There's more room.
Yep, we increase the volume in our lungs. So we breathe in, right? Because the atmospheric pressure pushes the air inside. Yep. That's why everybody wants to do it. You know, like even babies when they're crying, clavicular breathe all the time.
But,
What's up?
oh no, I'll ask him in a second.
Okay. So exhalation,
Thank you.
we're going to talk about the way that we inhale and exhale with all this. Inhaling, we raise the shoulders, and exhaling, we release it with gravity and muscle recoil. So the problem with this one is that we don't control what's going out of us, right? There's a lack of muscle control over what we're doing with our air. Yeah? That's why this position is so bad for us. Alright, moves large volume of air. The breath control is very difficult with this method because of the high subglottal pressure. So we're going, right? And we can't get the control over it. Because we only get our vocal folds to stop that air from coming out, right? That's why they vibrate together. Alright. There's no muscle antagonism, so engagement of muscles of exhalation, except for what is in the larynx. So it's all gravity going, and so it's hard for us to control. That's why it is. Okay? You all got that?
Yes.
So I've asked you what clavicular breathing was, and the inhalation, exhalation, why it's bad. You could explain this slide, right? So I noticed things like when we were on the test, you guys would get in the ballpark-ish of something, but you wouldn't be like specific enough about it, you know?
Yeah.
And something I really want you to know from this class is that we have to be really specific about these things because we know the information, right? So if we're gonna think in our lessons about certain sensations and everything, that is totally different than like if we're going to talk about how our body actually works with singing, right?
Yes.
Yeah, cool. Alright. I know. And it gets annoying for some people because we're here to do artsy stuff and whatever. Okay. Alright, so thoracic breathing is better for breath control. Inhalation is with the diaphragm and external intercostals, like inflating the entire around the ribcage. So it's very, right? It's all like cartoon opera singer based, something like that. Exhalation is releasing the diaphragm and contracting internal intercostals. It's based on the width of the ribs 6 through 12, so the bottom half, right? And it does not incorporate abdominals. That's the big difference.
How is that possible that it could not incorporate abdominal?
Because you're using your internal intercostals mostly,
Okay.
rather than your abdominals.
So that's still high breathing then,
Like I don't feel like
Technically,
like
Yep.
in the general.
but it's high breathing here rather than here,
Gotcha.
right? So we get the like this, and then we get right,
Oh.
and then we can have
So is it kind of taking like still a large volume of air, but rather than like shouldering it, it's just like
Yeah,
Okay.
so like when we're teaching students or something like that, we end up going through these processes a lot.
Yeah.
You know, like you end up getting somebody to clavicle breathes, and then you get them to do the thoracic thing, and then you get them to do it down here.
Right.
You know, and they're all like, they work, right? Because we get the increased volume in the lungs, so we get more breath pressure, and we can sing better, and it feels like we got all this energy rather than just going, something like that. So they work, they're just not the most efficient because they don't have the muscle antagonism, right, the control breathing, right?
So if you feel like you're engaging any part of your support apparatus, you're not doing thoracic breathing, right? Like cause I feel like when I am supporting myself, I'm engaging all, the muscular structure all up in here, and then it doesn't, this is like.
Nobody in this room probably does these things.
Okay, cool.
Okay, this is just like for,
Sweet.
if you're need to know basis, right? Okay. Because it's really, like you can sing opera like this, but you're able to tell, right?
Okay.
Okay, so then abdominal breathing is inhalation with the diaphragm only. So that's when you're like, this one's bad too, right? So it's only down here. You're not increasing your ribcage volume, it's just going, right? Instead of all of it is the goal, right? Exhalation is the abdominal muscles pushing against the viscera, right? So it's only the abs. Parts of the abdomen expand during inhalation depending upon which muscles are relaxed, ideally all six, right? Difference between men and women. So McCoy, they always love to talk about the difference between men and women and all this stuff. Okay, McCoy says it's because you all have a uterus and it makes you like be more full so you can feel your abdominal breathing more. But your uterus is like as big as your fist. So it's not really that large, yeah. When you think about it. So it has more to do with like the way that your weight is distributed, how you feel it, right? Does that make sense?
Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, so like in female bodies, they distribute their weight differently than
Right.
male bodies, right? And I think that that's how they feel, because when you talk to female singers about singing, breathing with singing, they always say that it feels like really low in their hips and everything, right? Would you agree, ladies? Some of you?
Sometimes.
Sometimes, okay. But I mean, like as opposed to like, men feel it up here a lot more. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, it's lower and it just has to do with body type and the way it's shaped and everything, right?
In your educated opinion. Right?
In my educated opinion, yes, this is an opinion part. I don't think it has to do with the fact that you have a uterus and not, right? Okay. That's the point I'm making, because McCoy thinks it's
Yeah.
because of the uterus.
No, I think that's really interesting. I think that's pretty legit.
Okay.
Based on the fact that I've
Okay, so balanced breathing, this is the combination of the way we're supposed to do it, right? Thoracic and abdominal. So inhalation is diaphragm and external intercostals, and relaxation of the abdomen, right? So there's no flexing, you're not keeping your six pack down there really hard, right? Good. And exhalation, abdominal muscles and external intercostals create the antagonism, right? So because we have the muscle antagonism with both groups working, we have more control, breath control over how we're doing with the larynx. Yeah?
So obviously the previous three examples are bad ideas, but it's unlikely that anyone would actually isolate one of those things. It would be something that would be clavicle dominated, right?
Yeah, totally.
Okay.
It's a spectrum, it's like
Okay.
in a triangle or something, But there are people who think that breathing deep is going, right, okay?
Right.
So that is clavicle breathing or something, right? Okay. So,
Right, so balanced breathing is just finding the middle of the triangle.
yeah, exactly, yeah, something like that. Oh, and I forgot to mention at the beginning of class, so I looked up some of the BMI stuff that we were talking about last time. And so McCoy talks about how like it's not, there's a paragraph in there, I'll read it to you. He said, many people use exercises such as sit-ups, crunches, and leg lifts to strengthen the rectus. Carried to the extreme, these exercises resulted in the ripped abdomen or six-pack, sometimes associated with bodybuilders. He loves his flowery language. So, I'm gonna keep going. Okay, strenuous exercise of the rectus probably has little positive effect for singers beyond the improvement of physical appearance. Okay? So since its action is to shorten the distance from the pubis to the thorax, contraction of the rectus does little to compress the viscera when appropriate singing posture is maintained. Overdevelopment of these muscles, however, can be problematic. Efficient breathing requires tension in the abdominal muscles to release immediately prior to inhalation. If the abdominal wall remains firmly contracted, there is nowhere for the viscera to go when the diaphragm descends. For this reason, singers who are particularly body and appearance conscious, something that is extremely helpful when it comes to casting for operas, must balance contraction and release of the abdominal muscles during their physical workouts.
Sure. Now,
So the release is important, right?
so can we just go back to the first thing that you read about the exercises that McCoy says are necessary to achieve that flip?
Well, I don't think that's right.
Okay, right, it's totally incorrect, because like if you're
Alright.
worried about, just for like the sake of like the six-pack discussion, abdominals are not at all, like those are probably like the least efficient exercises at like building abdominal strength, and if like you're worried about actually having a six-pack, those are also terrible exercises.
Well, McCoy probably doesn't have a six-pack.
He does not.
So,
I'm gonna be honest.
so again,
Y'all can look him up online. Okay.
so I think that if, you know, at least like the theme of this particular class period is gonna, or like this class as a whole, one of the themes is like having proper knowledge for when you talk to plebs and muggles about like what is good and bad. This
Yeah.
is something that we should understand is a common misconception in singing, is that exercise or like the pursuit of fitness can, or generally affects your singing in a negative way.
It doesn't, as long as you keep in mind the releasing part of it.
Oh, yeah.
I was just having a really long discussion with a friend of mine about how he was starting to work out because he was trying to bulk up or whatever, and he couldn't like get the tension to come out of his chest.
Yeah.
And he was like, I just can't do it because I'm like trying to work. And so he was like, I'm gonna have to do something else. And so
No, you just have to do like self-myofascial release, which is like, go get a medicine ball, or like get it, not a medicine ball, get like a lacrosse ball, foam roller, just roll out all your fascia.
oh, sure, yeah. What's up, Chelsea?
I wonder if that same issue happens for people who are particularly thin and have a difficult time like expanding their abdominal region anyway. It has nothing to do with how much, well, in that particular case, it might not have something to do with how much muscle you have there, but just like how much material is there
Mm-hmm.
for you to,
Hard to displace viscera that doesn't exist.
yeah.
Yeah, totally. Especially when somebody's trying to make you do it and you can't.
But, or if they're-
I am very aware of this problem.
But like the padding.
You know, like I.
Me
Continue.
But the things that are expanding.
We all are different. Okay, 'cause the point is that we all do it differently, right? And we can never like learn what is actually happening except for like this way by talking about the actual science of it, right?
Yeah.
Because you can go and have a teacher be like, "Oh, I think you're not breathing low enough," but they're doing that by intuiting what they're hearing, right? So the only way that you can independently assess what they're talking about is by studying all the muscles and everything.
But the things that are actually expanding and contracting is not like fat surround, like adipose tissue surrounding it, it's just muscle. Which like if we all were at like the same amount of body fat, it would be like the same muscles that are expanding.
Mm-hmm.
The fat isn't like something that you can control via like the central nervous system.
But it totally
But
makes
the
you feel
muscles
different.
are. But it what?
It totally makes you feel differently.
Yes, which is
So-
why I think that in like the famous case of, let's say, everybody likes to point to Maria Callas' drastic weight loss.
Mm-hmm.
The key word is like drastic, so she didn't have time for her central nervous system to adapt and like keep that fusion between like her singing coordination and her muscular and like the her new body.
Yeah.
Basically.
And there could be other reasons for that too. You know, it usually I would argue that it probably doesn't only have to do with like weight loss or weight gain.
Right.
You
So
know?
for the sake of this discussion and how muscles relate to singing, if a person, in theory, if a person could relax those muscles required and have really, really good control over their body, it would benefit them greatly to have stronger, like the stronger the muscles, the more control you could have.
I don't think that statement's quite true.
A person would be benefited by having.
The strength doesn't determine your control of them. It's the ability to control, to fine tune everything, right?
Mhm.
So I think that they can be strong and still be able to be controlled,
Mhm.
but I would say it's harder.
But so long as you can control them, like through various types of training, like both like, you know, power and strength training, but then also endurance and isolation movements.
What I'm talking about when it comes to singing,
Mhm.
you have to be able to control them differently than you do when you're doing workouts.
Yeah, but you can make them like translate into one.
Yeah, you can. But I mean, that's like how some people are really good sprinters and some people are really good marathon runners, right? You gotta find something in the middle. So, and there's actually this other study I found. I looked up a bunch of these, and you have to find them that are like recently, right? So there's this one in 2013 that talked about BMI index in females and how it affected their speech, how loud they talked, and so it was speech therapy, kind of. And it said that people that have more weight tended to talk louder than people with less.
Interesting.
And so, well, because there could be multiple reasons, right? So that could be that there's more tissue in the vocal folds. It could also be the fact that when you're talking, that you just have more to work with. So there's more air being moved through, right? Because if the pressure's higher, there's more volume to it, right?
Can you elaborate on the statement, more to work with?
More like air, which part?
Well, you have more mass on your body, so therefore you need more air.
So like gravity does more work for you,
Okay,
right? So, and your muscles also do too, because they're moving more for
Right.
that, right?
okay.
And so that was some of, there's also like a lot of things that they didn't quite understand in that study, so I was kind of like, yeah, it's interesting. But basically, it was that people that are healthy or above like underweight tend to speak more healthily, was the idea, right?
Okay.
So if you have like a super low body mass index, you're probably not gonna, because it affects so much of your voice, right? No, I couldn't find any ones that dealt with office singers, so that were super old. Okay, cool, let's move on. Alright, so more balanced breathing. There's two different ways to do it, right? So you can have your chest up, belly in, expand the thorax as long as possible, and the rectus does all the work, right? So if I'm up, and I use my abs to do the balanced breathing. That's first, and then I use my intercostals, okay? The other way is to use my intercostals, and then use the other parts of my ab muscles. Yeah?
Wait, the other way is what? The other way is what?
So have my chest go down first, and then my belly.
Right.
So, right. Okay. So both of those work, and it depends on your body type. Yeah.
Which one works better for you? Just out of curiosity. I'm sorry that I could ask you that another
It
time.
doesn't matter, you can ask me after class.
Okay.
Okay. Touching while teaching. Touch yourself, touch a friend, don't touch a student. Okay? If you ever teach, don't touch your students.
Will that be on the test?
Yeah. No, this is another opinion piece by Mr. Bash.
Another opinion piece.
It's always better, especially with how happy people are, just don't touch your students. Right? Or have them touch a friend. Are you taking a picture, Ellie?
Just like
Can I change the slide yet?
Yeah, you're
Okay. Alright, good. Alright, let's take more notes, yeah? Secondary muscles of inspiration. Okay, these ones act locally rather than corporally, so they're very like smaller movements. That's why they're secondary muscles, yeah? They tend to be small adjustments, even postural muscles could be considered to take on a role. They're very minimal for singing in regards to breath. The list of them is right here: sternocleidomastoid, scalenes, infundibulal portion of the intercostals, pectoralis major and minor, subclavian, serratus, anterior. Yeah? Are we all ready for this?
Yes.
Great. Sternocleidomastoid. All right. So this is on plate 3-7 in your Nettis book if you want to check it out. It's this muscle right there. It's the one that makes your head do this. Right? Alright. Origin in the sternum and the clavicle. So where's your sternum and clavicle? Hey. Oh, it's right here. So that's where it originates. Origin. And it inserts in the mastoid process, which is right here. Yeah?
Ooh, I like that.
You see it right here on this girl?
God, what a hot sternocleidomastoid.
Good. So that means that it pulls what to what?
Down to, wait.
Pulls
Oh,
your
up to
ear
down.
down.
Yep. Mastoid down.
I'm slow to study.
Insertion towards air. Thank you guys. Alright, secondary function. When contracted, lifts the upper part of the thorax, right? So it helps you do this. It's a small muscle though, remember, so it doesn't like do all of it, right? That's why there's so many of these. Alright, good. Primary function, turns head to the side. So,
Oh.
right.
Oh, she's turning her head.
So the secondary function is how it helps in breathing, but the primary function is not what it's supposed to do. Yeah.
Interesting.
I know. Okay. Scalenes. These are the little guys. Alright. They pop out when your head is pushed forward. So when you do this, you feel it back here. They're really little. They're right by your spine. Can you feel it happen? Okay, so you have to be like a turtle.
I don't know where. I don't. What? Oh, I feel it. No.
Touch yourself, touch a friend.
No,
Don't
this
just
is where?
They're right behind your neck. Do you see where they are right here?
Oh,
Can you feel them?
is it this thing? Not this
No.
big thing. It's this little thing.
Okay, so if you sit up straight, and put your hands on your neck like this, and then stick your head forward and up. Can you feel something tense?
So,
I can't
it's
feel
not your,
Oh, those are skates.
not your,
This is just scaling. Okay, there are other muscles there that do tense too, right? Okay, so unfortunately,
wait, I'm still confused which muscles they are.
these ones right here.
I understand that, but like not on your body, so when you lean down, whatever, I'll go do some self-exploration.
Touch yourself, touch a friend. Right, they're the ones that do this to your head. Right? There's also a picture in the book, right? Read.
At 11 p.m. 11 p.m. tonight. We're gonna find a skate. Happy hour.
Like this one's pretty good. So they're the ones down here. Right. Yeah,
These.
cool.
Okay.
Awesome. Origin, cervical vertebrae, which cervical means what?
Neck.
Neck. So they're the 7, right, that are on top of your spine.
Oh yes.
The insertion into the upper ribs, right here. And the secondary function raises the thorax slightly from the back and stabilizes the head. That's their primary function. And they're really deep inside your muscles.
So maybe we can't.
You can. They're the ones right over here.
I'm so muscular.
But, I mean, some people can think whatever. Okay.
Chris, can you go back for 1 second? Sorry.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Just let me know if you guys need more time with the slides. They go quick. You good timing? You're just gonna talk to me, Joanna.
Oh, shit.
Oh, no, I just said you can get them from Google Drive. He's like, I just rather have it right here.
Jesus.
Can we move on?
I want to move on
We're good?
from this now.
Me too. Alright. Intercondylar portion of the intercostals, they're the ones, they're just near your sternum in the internal intercostals, right here, right? There's no picture of them because you can't actually find one. Okay. They help elevate your ribcage when the internal intercostals right inside by your sternum. Yeah? Good enough. I'm not actually going to test you on that one because I can't find a picture.
Well,
Okay.
but wouldn't they be on one of our diagrams?
Mm-mm.
Because they're so little?
So, because it's only part of the internal intercostals.
Oh,
Okay.
so intercondylar just means the ones that are close to the sternum?
Yeah.
Okay.
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 It's part of the internal intercostals that help you breathe in, right?
Okay.
Yeah. Good. Good. This one's more important. Pectoralis major and minor. Everybody knows what these are, right? The pictures in the Netter's book are better than this one. So for the major, it's this one, because it's in pink, right? Okay. Origin, clavicle, and sternum, up here, and humerus, over here.
Mhm.
Good. Minor is on the inside, it's this one, right? Thorax, insertions in the scapula.
Oh.
They help raise the thorax when you flex them, but the primary muscles of the arm. Right? All right. I guess we're in that kind of mood today. All right, some clicking. All right.
Chris, can you go back for 1 second? Sorry. Thorax, scapula. Okay, thanks.
Yep. Remember, the origin insertions are good to know. If you're gonna make like flashcards of these, which I highly recommend, you can also buy them
Oh no.
if you don't want to make them. But you have to buy like the entire human body and then figure out which ones are which. Okay, subclavian, deep muscle. It's right in here. Yeah, underside of the clavicle, insertion in the first rib near the sternum. It's super tiny. It just elevates the first rib up. Yeah. Yep, because it pulls the insertion towards the origin, right?
Does it? It looks like it runs side to side.
So it's like a little, it's an angle.
So it's connected here and it pulls over here, on this side of the
So
rib.
it pulls like this. Right? So it pulls my ribs up just a little bit.
Oh. Okay.
So remember, a lot of these muscles, especially the tiny ones, are much more important to other animals. So like we have them because we're mammals, but like on my dog, that muscle is more important than it is on me. Right? Okay. Good. Serratus anterior. So serratus means saw-like, right? All of a sudden I got a Texas accent. I don't know what happened.
I like it.
Side of the thorax, ribs 1 through 9, right here. Insertion in the scapula, and so we pull side of the thorax to the scapula, right up, but it's kind of in the back. Secondary function elevates and expands the lateral side portion of the thorax, so it's this, up like that, up and out, and pulls the shoulders forward. That's mostly what it's supposed to do. Yeah. Sweet. Secondary muscles of inspiration, posterior side. So we get shoulders, trapezius, levator scapulae, rhomboidus major, rhomboidus minor, and on the back is serratus, posterior superior, erector spinae, and levator cuspor.
Do we need to be at all familiar with those?
Yeah. What are we gonna talk about?
Oh, okay, cool. I thought you were just like cursory.
That's just the list, so that you guys can go through, it's like the title section of this part.
Got it.
Yeah. Good. Trapezius. So there's actually the two plates that I have mentioned on the slide in this book, they're the same picture. One's just bigger than the other one. It's like this one's big, and then on 17, it's the same picture, but it's small. Yeah. Sweet. So it's trapezoidal in shape, right? Because we get the name from the shape of it in this case. Origin, spinous process of the cervical vertebrae, up here. And it runs all the way down, and so it's, the origin is all this stuff on the spine, right? And the spinous process is the one in the back, right? Like the little hooks. Right? Insertion is scapula and clavicle, right here, and it's pull-up muscle and helps you stabilize your thorax.
How specific on the origin should we be? Like, should we know that it is through C2 through T12? Or do we just need to know that it originates from the cervical vertebrae?
So I'm going to test you, I'm going to give you a picture and ask you to color it in.
Okay.
That's what I'm going to test you on.
Oh, so the origin insertion is just more for our own information?
Yes.
Oh, got it, okay.
And they will help you if you forget what's what.
Right,
Especially when we get to the ones that are all up in the neck,
yeah,
they get really confusing.
okay, cool.
So there are certain ones that it really helps to know. Okay? Cool.
Thanks. Yep.
I think that's better for everybody, isn't it? Yeah. Okay. But you have to know what the names are. Good. So levator scapulae, right over here. See, because like if I give you this picture and it's black and white, and I asked you to color in the levator scapulae, and you knew where the origins and insertions were, you would know which one it was.
Right.
Right? Rather than just trying to memorize pictures all the time. But some people are much more visual learners, so it's easier for them to do it that way, and that's why we have color books. Utilizing classmanship. Primary elevators of the shoulders, right? This elevates the thorax, clavicular breathing, right? That's how we get clavicular breathing. Beneath the trapezius, so it's deeper. So if we are over here, it would be right there, right? And if you look at that program that I had, the one with the 3D model and everything, you can go through and like right-click on the trapezius and be like, take off. And it'll take off the trapezius and you can see everything that's underneath it. And when you move your mouse over it, it'll tell you which muscle it is. So it'll help you to look at that to see what's in where and everything. Yeah. Because that's really the goal. All right, origin in the vertebra, C1 through 4, up here. insertion in the scapula, so we always pull the insertion towards the origin, and so it goes up. Cool. Okay, rhomboidus major, origin of vertebrae T2 through T5. Insertion scapula, the medial border. So what does that one do?
Medial border just meaning this, the lower end of the scapula?
Like, what does medial mean?
Middle.
Yeah, so towards medial rather than from distal, right? Which
Okay.
means away.
Ron would probably support your rotator cuff, any movement having to do with pulling.
Yep. Let's do this stuff. Right. Good, and the minor is another one right here. Insertion vertebra C7 through T1, scapula, medial border, medial meaning inside, right, in the middle. Rather than, because if it was on the distal border, it'd be out here. And then it wouldn't go anywhere, it'd like buckle in, right? Alright, good, rhomboidus muscles pull the shoulders back to a military pulls and suddenly lifts the anterior thorax. Okay? And those are smaller muscles, right? And so all these things are like strands, that's why they all have names. Like these ones, there's a major and a minor because they do slightly different actions and they're not combined, right? They're not the same muscle.
Cool. And the minor is just smaller.
Yeah.
Yep. Cool.
And it's up here, right?
Yeah, right
So
on.
the major's down
Major's
here,
down there, minor's up there.
minor's up there.
Right on.
Good. Serratus posterior superior. So, serratus means what?
Saw.
Saw-like. Oh, you guys are so good. Posterior means what?
Back.
Back.
Back. Superior.
On top.
On top. So it's this one, right?
Oh, I like that.
Awesome. This one, can you guess what the name of that one is?
Inferior.
Anterior.
Inferior.
Inferior.
Yeah.
Posterior.
Alright, so they're beneath the rhomboids, right? So it's even deeper inside. And origin, right at the vertebrae, to the ribs, and it elevates the posterior thorax. So that's what helps you go up with your thorax, right? Not with your shoulders. Cool. I mean, this stuff is kind of complicated, I know.
There we go, that's the big boys.
Erector spinae. The three super long muscles. You don't have to know the names of all the little ones, okay? But just know that you have to know that there's three of them. So if I give you a diagram, you draw all of them. Okay. So erector spinae. Spinae is plural, right? It says spinalis thoracis, longissimus thoracis, and iliocostalis lumborum, which is that one. All right. Vertebrae T9 through T12, medial slope of the dorsal iliac crest, so down here, and it insert into the spine's process of T1, T2, and the cervical vertebrae. So they, long back muscles and help us stand up straight. So what do those do? They, this, right?
There's
And
the
their spine.
posterior, or the posture muscles.
Yep, they're posture muscles. But they also, like, if you ever see those people do that, like they hold the weights and then they like pull their back up and stuff. They're
Yeah.
exercising those. It's that muscle.
Also fairly deep.
Yeah, and they're big. They're very long.
That exercise is mostly glutes and hamstrings.
Yeah, but when you bend your back, it's part of that. It's just a visual thing. It's good. Alright, levator custorum. So these are really little muscles, okay? They're deepest posterior inspiration muscle. Levator, custorum, brevis, those are the short ones and the long ones, right? So if you can see, there's two, right? So the short one connects right here. That only goes over one rib. And then the long one goes over two ribs. Can you see the difference there? Okay, so there's the brevis and the longest, right? So brevis means
It's short.
short, right? Let me get my pointer.
Why?
Can you not see the little mouse? Okay. So there's the short, the brevis one. So I'm going to talk about the origin right here, okay? Whatever this one is. The brevis goes one rib down to the right there. Do you see this? Okay. The longest goes two ribs.
And each rib has a brevis and a longus.
Yeah.
Right on.
But they don't connect at the same part of your spine.
Okay.
Make sense?
Yeah.
Oh, I see it now.
So when it contracts How is it an inspiration muscle?
Because it pulls your ribcage up.
Pulls it up and out slightly.
No.
The front of the ribcage would follow it.
Because we always pull the insertion towards the origin, right?
Mhm.
So that this is your back.
Yep.
Back.
Right.
So it's going to pull this towards your spine, which is
Mm-hmm.
right.
Okay.
It's just up and in a little bit. They're very little, but not that big. However, they're bigger on different animals, right? Good. So you just have to know that there's two different kinds of those. Navel drop. Elevates lower back for inhalation. Secondary muscles of expiration. Are we going through this stuff too fast? Are we good?
Right.
You all good? Okay.
Oh.
Because I figure if we end up like,
Writing anything?
huh?
Does anybody else actually? Okay, I guess I'm the only person writing, so go. But you
Well-
gotta do it, you're good.
We'll see how you do on the own test, right? Good. Secondary muscles of expiration. Innermost intercostals and transversus thoracis. Good. Innermost intercostals. We get this picture again. This is like my favorite intercostal picture. It's the ones on the inside, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So remember that the other part, the portion of that that's right by your sternum in the front is a secondary muscle of expiration. But it's generally a secondary muscle of expiration. I screwed them up again, sorry. So these are expiration. It can also be a muscle of inhalation. Yeah. Depending upon where it is, where you're talking about. Make sense?
That makes sense because you should be able to, that's like a muscle that you can control. So you should be able to like control concentric and an eccentric motion of it. So it could be for both inspiration and
Well, it depends on where it is. So if it's over here, it's expiration because it contracts your ribcage. But if it's by your sternum, it's inspiration because it lifts your ribcage.
So there's different, so innermost intercostals are like both here and here.
Well, it like lines the inside of your ribs. You see, it's like this little, right? Does that make sense to everybody? Sweet. Origin, rib below, insertion, rib above. Only connect bone to bone, not cartilage, and deepest costal muscles. So they're on the inside of your ribcage. Oh, good. Transversus thoracis. Origin, bottom of the sternum, inserts in ribs 2 through 7. It traverses the thorax. That's where the name comes from. Pulls ribs inwards towards the sternum. So the sternum's right here, and they're right here. Can we all see that? The picture in the Netter's book of this is way better than the one I have on the slide.
Is that
So it's these.
body or the Republic of Chad?
I don't know. Right?
Oh, it's half of them.
So these
I
are,
got it.
so these are the guys that connect your sternum to your ribs.
Yep, part of it.
Some muscular guys.
Yep.
Yeah.
Muscular guys. Alright. Secondary muscles of expiration posterior. Subcostalis, latissimus dorsi, and serratus posterior inferior, which we talked about before, right? And gluteus maximus. Alright, subcostals. These are two little tiny things in here. When I put the not shown on the plate right here, it's because they list it in there, but they don't actually have it in the illustration. Because if, one of the reasons this book is so good is it has this whole list of things on this side, which talks about all the muscles. And it's listed in there, but it's not shown on that. Because it's so little. Origin of the rib, inner surface, and then the second or third rib below, right? So this one goes 3 ribs and this one goes 2 ribs. Near spine, very small muscles that compress back and inward. Yeah? Sweet.
So, okay.
Yep.
Will it be like, when we were taking the test, will it be fairly clear? Because like these little guys are the ones that freak me out because there's, I don't know, like are there any other small muscles on the back or is it going to be more or less, like this where it's like the 2 or 3, like.
I'm not gonna try to trick you.
Okay, But like,
It's not
how
worth
are
trying
we
to
to
trace
tell the difference? Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Cause these are basically the levator costernums, but in the back, right? Same function
Yeah.
where they go like 2 or 3 ribs down, or 1 or 2 ribs down, or whatever.
No, okay, so those ones, they're the ones that connect right here, right?
Yeah.
The
So they
angle's
go,
different.
they go, okay.
So the other ones are muscles of inspiration, these are muscles of exhalation.
Ah,
Because these contract the ribs.
yeah, right on, okay.
So they're actually antagonists, right? Because they do the opposite of the other one. Which is another way that you can learn all of these. You can like pair which one does the opposite of the other one, right? Cool. Sweet. Alright, latissimus dorsi. Arm muscles that help you do the pull-ups. Origin, sacrolumbar, and lower thoracic vertebrae down here. Insert into the humerus muscle up here. They're very big. And they compress the thorax a little bit when they flex, when you flex them, right? So that's why they're muscles of exhalation. Cool?
Chris, that little section, do they also encompass that tiny little section right there above the, what's highlighted in red?
What do you mean?
See that little, like,
Above there.
Up here?
that little section right there next to your mouse?
Yeah, it's because it's got to go to the humerus.
The lats also encompass that little chunk of muscle?
Here?
Yeah.
I'm not sure, I don't think so. But, what does it say in the book?
It doesn't. It doesn't look like it, but that's not the chaps with the wrong boys.
I think it does, because so it's the one on the outside.
Right, so then.
So it's big down here and not so big when it gets up higher.
So this is only highlighted
Because-
as large portion, large portion?
So it's the one that goes right here, right?
Right. I'm
And
just
so-
wondering why that's not highlighted on
I don't know.
there. Okay. Whatever.
Sometimes they have them cut out so that you can see the other ones, right? Because it goes in here, so it doesn't have that.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, right. We all good? It is lots of muscles. But you're gonna know like all the muscles that are in your thorax.
You will know.
Well, for like 2 days.
Right,
Yeah.
for 2 days.
Test, day after test, and then.
That's up
We
to
should
you.
plan the day after the test.
Just don't go to a talkback after an opera and start talking like you know all this stuff if you don't remember it.
Like go somewhere.
Alright. Serratus posterior inferior. Antagonist is the superior version, right? So that was the one that was up here that we talked about. Origin, vertebrae 211 through L3, and the ribs 7 through 12 up here. So they compress the thorax, so the muscles of expiration. Yeah. Sweet. Alright, glutes.
Sorry, one more second on that.
Yep, no problem.
Okay, so how are we to tell the difference between these guys and the subcostals?
And the subcostals. That's
Yeah.
there.
So those are just those 2 little guys, and then go 2 slides forward.
Subcostals don't look like, they're not
So
serratus.
subcostals are like this way, these guys are more this way.
And
Yeah,
these are also.
and they're not serratus.
Soft.
So they're soft. Got it.
Yep. It's in
Okay.
the name, it's in the origins and insertions, right? That's why I'm like, you should really know the origins and insertions.
Yeah.
But I'm not gonna test you on it.
Origin.
You good? So it compresses the thorax because it pulls it down in the back. Gluteus
Okay.
maximus, largest muscle of the body, right? So this is the only one that's bigger than the diaphragm.
Yeah.
Butt muscle. Often flexed with the rest of the pelvic girdle, all of these things. Provides base so that the viscera doesn't push downward, right? So when you breathe in, it's part of what makes it so that you have a stable pelvic floor.
So when you say secondary muscles of exhalation, you're working really hard to say that these are muscles of exhalation, because they're really not. They're just providing a floor for viscera.
Well, without them, it wouldn't work,
Okay,
right?
so the bone structure wouldn't block them anyway.
That's part of it, but it's not all of it, right?
Okay,
So when we talk about like science, physiology things, we always have to go all the way with all of it. Because if we're just so in our lessons, we can go part of the way, right? We can talk about, oh, we feel it go down here because it's all about practicality of it. But when we're talking about this, like your glutes actually do something for your breathing. So we have to know that, right? Yeah. Good. Postural muscles. Psoas, major, minor, and the iliacus. So these ones, this is part of the pelvic floor stuff too with the glutes, okay? Ian?
What?
This is part of the pelvic floor stuff too.
Mhm.
So how these muscles are important. So we get the psoas minor and major.
This is antagonistic to the glutes, right?
Yeah, they help you do this.
Yeah.
Right. But so when you flex them, secondarily, they firm up your pelvic floor and they give something to push the rest of our muscles, right? So that's why they are muscles of, the postural muscles, right? They help with breathing. Yeah? Everybody understands that, right?
Yep.
Otherwise your guts just go everywhere. Did they fall out and you don't sing anymore? Or eat, or live. Okay. Origin, T12 through L5, this is the major and minor. I won't like test you separately on these ones, okay? They're these ones that go down here.
Tilt, looks like tilt pelvis, okay.
Yep. And then insert into the femur. All good?
Yes.
Awesome. Good. I think that's all of them. Did I mark? Oh, iliacus, I skipped it. Okay, good. So origin in the iliac crest, we all know where that is, right?
Yep.
Right here. Insertion into the femur, right there, and it's part of the pelvic floor and it helps do sit-ups and stuff like that. Not much.
Iliac crest, so that
Yep.
is the cresty part of your.
It's the cresty part, the
Not
cresty,
crusty,
the
the
cresty,
It's the front part.
cresty part of your pelvis. It's the ridge that's your hip bones, it's your hip bones. Right?
Yes.
All right. Good. Oh, guys, we are almost done.
Oh.
We got through this. I thought it was going to take us another day to get through all this stuff.
Well, Chris, guess next time it's movie time.
Next time, what?
Movie time.
Movie time?
We should have
Movie.
Or I make it harder. Okay. Good. Respiratory physiology. Okay, breath capacity. This is another section. This is one. Okay, do you remember when we talked about the nonlinear source theory?
Yes.
And we went through it, and you guys were like, "Oh, we know it."
And then nobody.
And then we
knows
took the
that.
test, and nobody knew it.
Well, yeah, but that's one thing to say you know it right after you learn it.
I know. So I'm just saying, this is something that's at the end of the class. It's important, and it's a different subject that we will. I know a lot of people got it. That's why I
Who
didn't
said
give you.
nobody?
I just wrote the word.
A lot of people didn't get it. Okay, great. So this is something you guys gotta pay attention to, okay? Breath is the power source for the vocal fold vibration, right? So it's like the gas tank. And the lung size and vocal fold size are proportional. So bigger lungs, sorry. Bigger lungs equals bigger folds and more airflow and vice versa, right? So if you're smaller, you have less airflow, and if you're bigger, you have more airflow. Yeah?
Got a big long.
Makes sense.
And by bigger, you don't mean heavier, you mean larger ribcage circumference.
Yep, size. Size and what? And vocal fold size too, right? Because you can be like a castrato and you can have a huge thorax, but have really tiny vocal folds, right?
Theoretical question. The ribs, is this talking about like the actual like size of the ribs or how much they are expanded to? Like their circumference when they are.
We're going to talk about breath capacity, so that's how much air is in your lungs.
But it's not possible to, like it is possible to increase your the rib cage circumference, but it's not possible to increase your actual vocal fold size, right?
No, I don't think so. I don't think there's been any studies done to that. And I don't think that it would, I don't think so. I never thought about it like trying to weightlift my high C's, man. Okay, so we get total lung capacity, which is TLC, tentative loving care, we all need it, right? Alright.
I don't need total lung capacity.
Okay, it's the maximum amount of air that you can have in your lungs. So when you breathe out to where you can't breathe it anymore, that's your total lung capacity. For females, it's about 3 to 5 liters, and for males, it's 4 to 7. Yeah, which is a lot of air, actually. Think about it. Yeah, that's a lot, isn't it? 7 of those. I should have brought a demonstration. Okay, so that's our total lung capacity, right? Is how much air we can have in our lungs. And then the residual lung volume is what remains in the lungs after as much air as possible has been expelled. Because we can never breathe out to 0, right?
Yeah.
Because we die. We wouldn't have any more pressure going back in. Right? It can never be completely empty. That's the residual volume, okay? So the vital capacity, the amount of air that we can use to sing, would be the total lung capacity minus the residual volume equals the vital capacity, how much air is available for us to use, okay? Sweet. Alright, so that is like kind of an equation you have to know.
TLC minus RP
Equals VC.
equals VC.
Alright, so tidal volume is the amount of air exhaled or inhaled. It's about 0.5 liters when you're just sitting around. Like y'all are breathing about 0.5 liters with each breath right now. But it can also be almost 100% of vital capacity if you're like running really hard and you're going, right, something like that. Okay, so that can change. That's tidal volume, meaning when it changes, right? It's tidal. So, and how much pressure does it actually take to sing? So it's about 0.3 to 3 kilopascals to talk. And it's about 6 kilopascals to sing loudly. And we can reach up to about 10 kilopascals. So you never have to be like screaming your head off to sing opera, right? Because that's a lot of breath pressure. We only need about 6. Make sense?
How are we, like, I'm sorry, is the vital capacity the equation that gets us to that 0.3 to 3 kilopascals, or is that just like a whole different situation that we're on to now?
We're on a different situation.
Got it.
Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, it's on a different side. So the tidal volume is how much you use, and then pressure is different than volume, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So pressure's at that.
Okay. Sorry.
Let me see how much. Okay, good. Muscle recoil from the expiratory muscles is enough to create a proper amount of pressure to begin phonation. Okay. But I can't write apparently these slides. But the most must become engaged in order to maintain the pressure. Oh, but the other muscles have to become engaged to maintain the breath pressure, right?
So that's why, like,
So if we breathe in and we want to start singing, our muscle recoil will do it on its own. We'll create enough pressure, right? We'll get about the 6 kilopascals or the 3 kilopascals or whatever it is to sing, just from the muscular recoil. But then we have to actively engage to keep that pressure level up. As
So
it
you can
goes.
like breathe in and like yell really loudly at somebody, but in order to maintain that volume.
You have to use other muscles to decrease your lung volume so that the pressure goes up, right?
Yes.
That's basically everything we've been learning about, right? In one little thing.
Singing is
Yeah, and actually, something really interesting, I don't remember where I put this in the slide, but this is like appropriate to mention right now. Your voice is only like 1% efficient to how much air you use. Whereas like light bulbs, you know, like the iridescent ones that give off like tons of heat and everything, they're like 5%. So they're like more efficient than our voices. Our voices really suck.
What's something that's like almost 100% efficient?
I don't know. I'd have to Google it.
How do, but it has to go so far.
You think like LED lights maybe are like way more efficient, right?
Yeah, but like,
Good. So conclusion, only some parts are absolutely vital to know. This is something that McCoy talks about. There's the ones that are really important for you to know. This is not what's on the test. Everything's on the test. But the ones that are really important for you to know are the primary muscles, right? That's the ones that we deal with. It's the ones that we are aware of. It's the ones that we can touch. But if you notice, there are tons of other muscles that we use to do all this stuff, right?
so there are going to be 33 muscles on the test.
There are 33 listed muscles.
On
I don't
the
know if I'm
test?
going to test you on all of them, but I might.
Oh, but there could be as many as 33 muscles on the test.
Yeah, you have to know all of them, right?
Fabulous.
It's just like the other one.
Yeah, I just like knowing the number of how many.
Oh. It's all the ones I gave you in the slide. I'm not gonna surprise you with any ones that aren't on there.
That
Absolutely, okay. So essentials are diaphragm, costals, four abdominal muscles, and the quadratus lumborum. And the process is what's important, right?
Cool.
which is insertion to origin. No.
No, the process, the general process
Oh,
of
like
how
what it
you
does.
inspire and expire and apajo and all that.
Primary and secondary.
Hmm?
The primary and
Well,
secondary.
you can't inspire primarily and secondary. You only inspire. So what's important is the antagonism between the muscle groups, right?
Got it.
That's what I mean by process.
Got it.
I know it gets confusing because there's.
No, that's helpful.
Process, right?
Thank you.
Okay, I think, is that the last line? We're all done.
Hey Chris, what is the task class?
It's on the syllabus, I don't remember exactly.
Jack, I will tell you right
We all good?
Yeah.
Okay,
Thanks, Chris.
so next week, I think we do,
I'm so good at that.
yeah, next week we do phonation and larynx stuff, okay?
Woo!
So, you guys can read the chapter on the stuff that we talked about. It's a really good, like, so he doesn't go through and list all the origins and insertions and give you all the pictures, but what he does is he shows you how they work together more. So reading that chapter is a really good review.
Cool.
But read the phonation chapter 8 for next class, okay?
Cool. Thanks, Chris.
Thank you.
No, guys, wait, we're done.
You can read that.
The math, just the math is wrong.
Was it?
They have.
Oh, cause I did yours before I decided to do
It's like what?
Oh, for that, this other one? Oh, well, does that mean that I have two more?
I do? Okay, regardless.
Oh, I'm gonna work it.
Deal.
So, here's my other question.
I got 2 free tickets for Salka tonight. I
Great, okay, yeah. You did.
So that would go to 5, actually, if we did take off the notes, right?
I had a remedial yesterday.
Wow. You don't care about that, you just want the number?
I just read it,
Okay.
cause all that was.
Dude, I gotta go ham today.
Yeah.
It's Mardi Gras.
I've never heard that.
Before Ash Wednesday. What kind of was
Fat
Just call
Tuesday.
that Marty.
Mardi Gras?
Well, yeah, Tom, we gotta crack down, dude, tomorrow at lunch starts.
No, I was just looking,
Tomorrow, man.
I was looking at, I was looking at
Hurry
me,
up.
I was just looking at me.
Someone in Dream on totally.
I have a.
Thank you.
Not a problem.
Feel that. You're actually gonna change your mind.
Who's got the attendance thing?
It's right here in the front row.
Salvation wrong, you know. You did mine.
Alright.
I think that's the technique.
I like that little piece of stuff.
Oh,
Hey, Chris, what causes like your body to pump? You know, like when you
No, because I might
like,
have
feel
to
your body
rehearse a
pump,
piece for
is
my
that
theater class right
muscles
now.
like doing something?
That's your joints. Yeah. So they're like, well, like, so you can get TMJ.
I have TMJ.
Does your jaw pop?
Oh, all the time. But I was talking
Dude.
about my, well,
It's the same thing.
okay. Cause
Do
this,
you know why
this
that
like bone
happens?
broke when I was born. And like, I've never been able to like rotate without it like clinking and flying everywhere.
So like,
I have the same thing.
dude, it's like, I'll show, there's a video
Oh,
of
it's
it.
the cartilage that pops off your bone and it
Not nice.
Yeah, and then it,
scrapes
well,
your
it gets
your
off,
joint.
Off the hinge or something?
no,
No,
so
it
like,
pops out.
when your jaw goes over the hinge, there's like a part of cartilage in there that protects it,
To keep
and
it
that
smooth.
cartilage pops out of the joint. And so when you pop it back into place, you're feeling the cartilage pop back under the.
Mine was a double
Really?
spot.
Is it- I mean, is it bad for you?
That's like the bad
As it
version.
turns out.
Okay, so like when you're doing it, it's not that bad. But it can get where it doesn't pop back.
Right, yeah, no, there's been a couple times
And
where like
one
I've
of them
woken
is-
up and it's
It
been
actually is
super,
really
super,
smart.
really, really bad.
Oh, sure.
For, like,
So-
days.
Oh, yeah. I don't know.
My right
It's the
side pops in a
melody,
different place than my
Like
left
mirror
side.
image, like an exact whatever, so
No,
that
my
would go
God.
reverse. But the words still go in order.
Most people
So
have
it's very
something
bizarre.
like
That's a
Very
cool
bizarre.
thing. And then another girl,
It just has to do with
She
your
was like, have you ever sung in Russian? I was like, no.
No, my elbow straight. Like,
But it's fine.
Right. Joanna, there's all kinds of reasons too, like, you know, when your knees pop, like, the reason that happens is because you have muscles on one.
Oh, we're gonna
They never pop.
I couldn't see it was.
But you know, like, when people's knees pop, it's because you have these muscles
Like,
that
they're
go like,
pretty
Just like
tough
it.
off.
Oh,
well, it's because they're not strong enough.
About
Because
the
we
hair.
like sit around all day in chairs.
I wasn't even gonna
And
say.
so our knees are associated.
No, it's not.
There's a lot.
Alright, I'll see you later. Watch this.
Yay!
No, I was like, I
Thank
feel like
you,
it's got muscles that are all in
Alex.
there, and like, I wonder, like, if it,
Hey!
cause it possibly is like, more. It's like, I wonder if they were all like, mixed up in there.
I don't know, I mean, like, you
Welcome to
could
the
have,
world.
like, one of them could have been like underdeveloped or something.
Yeah, maybe.
I mean, you never know. But the thing is you're fine now, so.
I mean, yeah, I'm living. No, dude, I have some problems already. But today's my last day.